So we are working in conjunction with Sylvandale Ranch to have our children look at what has happened and the changes they've had since the flood of 2013.
Sylvandale asked us if we would be able to keep going and do something with telling the natural history and the human history of Sylvandale, including the flood.
They are helping them make a trail with interpretive signs and learning all the history of Sylvandale plus the area that we are in right now. We were learning a lot about the Native Americans, and then for the kids to go there and say, oh my gosh, the Arapaho and the Utes were right here in our backyard.
The best part was seeing the kids, and when the kids got there and discovered things, and they'd say, come see this, Mrs. Colwell, come see this, Mrs. Farr, look at this, did you know this, did you know this? And so here we are telling them in a book and all this other stuff, yes, this really happened, but then when they see it, they believe it. And they're much more excited about it. And they'll make a connection back to what they read in a book.
It's Colwell, he's right here.
We created, through this grant, 2 carts that house a lot of materials, as well as a lot of tools, and we also have a sewing machine that our kids use, and so they can be moved around to classrooms for any kind of project-based learning that they might be doing, whether it's a micro unit, just one task, or a larger project. All kinds of opportunities for kids to just explore, make things, design things, and outside of traditional kind of classroom assignments. By making them mobile and by making them something accessible through the laboratory, which kids are assigned to every week as one of their specials rotations, we wanted to be able to touch every kid in the school. If they've signed up for the library club after school, we have a K2 day and a 3-5 day. My favorite part is like walking through the laboratory at any time and seeing kids creating things and excited to show you their learning and owning it and having it be something that they're truly interested in. It's really empowering to see kids, young kids, really own their learning and feel like there aren't limitations on what they can do.
Who wants to learn? I do.
We started a class this year called Bright Life, and the focus is on careers and publications, and the emphasis is on creating a student-produced literary magazine for Thompson Valley High School. Our grant money was intended to allow us to be able to do some things like publish a print version of the magazine that we'd be able to distribute across the school, to do some, to look at some careers and things that students might be interested in the writing field, and actually get to go out into the field some through field trips and be able to see what's being explored in real life. Because we've got that grant money that's going to allow us to do that printed publication, it meant that we were able to work through who we were going to print with and get bids up front, and we were able to go ahead and move forward in the process. So we have opportunities that we just would not have without it. Working with kids in a project-based learning environment where they get to really ask the questions and be inquiry-based, just being able to watch them explore and grow. We had them complete a job application for the class. They created resumes and cover letters for the positions they were interested in. They signed up for interview times, and then they worked as teams of students to interview each other for the different positions we decided we needed within our magazine. That is the most exciting thing I've ever witnessed, is just watching their excitement, their nervousness, and the things that they learned from that.
This year we launched a new program called Ignite, which is a series of day-long STEM-themed camps that align with several of the district's no school days. So kids, kindergarten through 8th grade, can go to a camp and have an experience that's going to be super hands-on, super engaging. They're learning tons, and it gives really busy parents an alternative and an educational alternative for those no school days. Because we borrow space in the middle schools for our camps, our teachers basically need to have a classroom on wheels. So TEF allowed us to basically put together classrooms on wheels. There was a group of boys over at our Bill Reed location this fall. They were recreating the Big Thompson Canyon and flood, and they were elbow deep in mud and dirt and rocks and sand, and they just couldn't have been having a better time learning about the impacts of water and soil erosion and so forth.
So my grant that I wrote was called Inspiring Success through Student College Athletes. And my goal for it was to give students a purpose for wanting to strive and work hard in school. We were able to take the entire 5th grade to CSU. They had about 10 to 12 first-generation athletes do a question-and-answer panel. We went to the indoor practice facility where the kids played football and soccer, basketball, volleyball with all the athletes. Just an amazing group of college students that really poured out their hearts to our kids. Hearing them say, I never thought I could do it, but I'm gonna do it. I don't care what it takes. I can go to college. And I think the thing that really came through was if you want to go to college, you can. There's so many opportunities out there. Just continue to work hard. I had a couple kids write. I asked them all to write about their experience and what it meant to them. And I think the one that really touched me the most was one of my young men that I had last year. And he's kind of had a hard time. And so this is what he said. He said, before going to CSU, I didn't think I would make it to college, but they made me feel like I could do anything. I got to know Lorenda, one of the college track athletes. She really helped me by telling me that I could do it. She said if I keep working hard, I could do anything. She even surprised me and came to Truscott with cupcakes for my birthday. I just really thought that was cool, and they took so much time with us. Some of them were the first in their family to go to college, and I thought, if they can do it, I can do it.
Walt Clark redesigned its schedule so that it would be impossible for me to continue the model of choir instruction that I had always done, which was a 6th grade choir, a 7th grade choir, and 8th grade choir. I asked around the choir community and they said, try single gender choirs. The needs I saw were that I would need some support in instruction. What are best practices for teaching a boy choir? What are best strategies for teaching girl choir? I applied for a grant partially to bring in guest teachers who had experience in this area and partially to purchase the literature. It really was a sea change in how we do choir at Walt Clark. It's interesting some of the questions that I'm being asked that I wasn't before. Like there's one kid who's going to a solo festival. I've never had someone step out and say, I want to try that. And they're really starting to think reflectively about where do they want to be in a few years.
So my great idea project was experiencing the lives of children around the world. And so what that meant was it was for children in my classroom to be able to experience what it would be like to go to a different country so that we can compare and contrast what those children are doing, living there versus what we're doing. So we try to be in a country for at least 2 weeks. They're trying to figure out where is it that they're going, what do they have when we get there, is there anything there that they can experience that they've lived themselves. We have the celebration for the reason why we've gone, and then we fly back.
Are we on the ground? Yeah!
Seeing their faces and just seeing them get so excited and so into what we're doing. It's kind of been really kind of fun to watch them expand their own learning and expand their own imaginary play. Well, I had one little guy that Mom told me we're in the Chinese New Year party, and so they're eating Chinese food with chopsticks and they're having a grand time, and the mom says to me, he got so upset last night and he didn't want to go to sleep. And she asked him, what's wrong? And he said, I do not want to go to school tomorrow. And she goes, what do you mean you don't want to go to school tomorrow? It's your party, it's for Chinese New Year. And he goes, right, because then we have to leave and then we have to go home, and I'm not ready to leave China yet.
So our project is trying to integrate the English 10 in the biology curriculum. One of science's biggest problems and one of science education's biggest problems is scientists don't know how to communicate with non-scientists. Partnering with Lisa Adams, who's a biology teacher at Thompson Valley High School, to basically combine English 10 and biology and kind of work together. Adapting the English curriculum to kind of follow the biology, because we can work all the skills. We can work on complex texts, we can work on the different writing and argument and informational and narrative and all of that within a context of biology. Liza Bauer had caught it. It's building a school on Mars, and it was actually like the perfect combination because they got to do some of the research for the science piece, and we really were trying to focus on some of that biological piece, you know, if people are going to survive on Mars in terms of biology, what will they need? But then once they designed their school around their research, they then had to pull on the rhetoric and some of those communication pieces that we'd been working on in the English class to put together a presentation to present their school.
Here is my school project. Up here, as you can see, we have a basketball court.
I think it's helped a lot with engagement because we've got some of the science-minded students who, you know, they're getting to still read about the science and what they like. It's also opening a door for some of the more English-minded students to start digging into the science.
So what I was able to do is get about $900 worth of electronic equipment that actually connects to the internet. So kids were able to actually build electronic-based projects, program them, and it would communicate via the internet to their phone, to a website, to other internet-ready devices that other kids were building actually in class. We have Internet of Things devices in our houses, and these kids are actually building things that are similar to that on a smaller scale and a lot cheaper. And they're prototyping it, and they're actually making the devices of tomorrow.
It's a Internet of Things device where if your classroom ever gets too hot, a fan will automatically turn on.
This is a sound sensor, and the sound sensor will detect and send in values of how loud your classroom is being, and it can alert the teacher when the classroom reaches becomes too loud or too quiet.
It's wireless communication with your phone to turn it on or off, but I also added a automatic feature so that the space heater, in this case the fan, will turn on until it reaches a certain temperature and then turn off. And this can all be controlled from your phone.
An elective class that's very open-ended is kind of relaxing and enjoyable. I think, honestly, with any challenges, it really helps the kids learn and grow. Yeah. And that's something that I think is important, that we allow kids to explore and try to figure out what's wrong versus just telling them this is the way it is. We can't lose focus on that creative edge, because that's what really our country is founded on, was innovation, entrepreneurship, and creativity.